Sometimes a single week can tell you more than an entire year. And in the world of aviation, this past week was an absolute blockbuster. We're talking commercial airlines, killer drones, flying taxis, a bunch of seemingly random events that actually reveal a massive transformation happening right over our heads. So let's connect the dots. It sounds like the setup to a really weird joke, right? A software bug, a combat drone, and an air taxi. I mean, they're from totally different corners of the aviation world. But believe it or not, the connection between them is way more direct and a lot more important than you might think. Yeah, this isn't a riddle. It's a real-time snapshot of the future arriving. In just 1 week, these huge stories in commercial travel, in military tech, and in urban mobility all dropped at once. And each one is a piece of a much, much bigger story about where we're all headed. Okay, so let's start with the world most of us actually experience, commercial airlines. And right now, that world is, it's living this strange double life. It's pushing for this incredible expansion, while at the same time dealing with some really fundamental problems. The airline industry is in such a weird spot. On one hand, things are booming. You've got massive new airports like Navi Mumbai about to open, and all these cool new nonstop routes linking cities that have never been directly connected. But on the other hand, you can kind of see the cracks starting to show. Geopolitical drama is grounding flights in places like Venezuela, and then one of the biggest plane manufacturers in the world just dropped a bombshell of a recall. 6,000 planes. Just let that number sink in. That is the scale of this recall. We're talking about the Airbus A320 family, one of the most common planes in the sky. Here in the US, hundreds of jets from carriers like American and JetBlue are affected. It's just a huge reminder that the same complexity that makes this amazing global network possible also makes it incredibly vulnerable. A single software bug can send ripples through the entire system. All right, let's switch gears. Our next story takes us from the familiar skies of commercial flights into the super secretive world of military technology. Because while the airlines were wrestling with software bugs, a totally different kind of software was out there making history. So before we dive into the news, we gotta get this one term down, BVR. It stands for Beyond Visual Range. For decades, this has been the absolute gold standard of air combat. It means a pilot can fire a missile at an enemy they can't even see with their own eyes. They're relying completely on radar and instruments. It's the capability that has defined what makes a modern fighter jet so powerful. Up until this week, pulling off a BVR kill was something only a human pilot in a super sophisticated, multi-million-dollar jet could do. But that just changed. And the implications? They're enormous. So get this. Turkey's Bayraktar Kizilema, which is this jet-powered unmanned fighter, successfully shot down a target from beyond visual range. That's a world first. For the first time in history, a combat drone has achieved a BVR kill. This proves that an autonomous aircraft can now do one of the most complex, most critical jobs in air combat, all without a person in the cockpit. The game has officially changed. And this didn't just happen overnight. It's the payoff for years and years of development. We've seen the building blocks coming together for a while now. First, you had teaming, where a pilot basically controls a drone as a wingman. Then came swarming, where one jet acts like a quarterback for a whole team of drones. But this test from Turkey, this is the final phase, the fully autonomous kill, where the machine is making that final call. Okay, so from the battlefield of the future, let's pivot to the commute of the future. Because those same ideas, advanced software and autonomous flight, they're not just changing how wars are fought, they're about to completely change our cities. Over in Bangkok, a company called eHang showed off its pilotless electric air taxi. Now look, we've seen demos before, right? But this one was different. Why? Because of who was in the passenger seat. The Director General of Thailand's Civil Aviation Authority, the top regulator, personally went for a flight. This is the first time a head regulator anywhere on Earth has strapped into a pilotless air taxi. That is not just a photo op, that is a massive signal of trust from the exact people who write the safety rules. And that confidence is kicking off a global race. A regulator taking a flight is a huge milestone. But look at what's coming next. By around 2026, the world's first dedicated air taxi terminal is set to open in Dubai, and it's already over halfway built. And by 2028, companies are planning to launch their first actual commercial routes. What used to be science fiction is rapidly becoming concrete and steel. So, let's bring it all back together. A software recall, a killer drone, and a flying taxi. What's so incredible is that the very same software complexity that can ground 6,000 passenger jets is also what allows a drone to think for itself or a taxi to fly without a pilot. It shows you the pressure, the danger, and the incredible promise of our future in the sky. First off, the growing pains in our current system are very real. The A320 recall makes you ask some tough questions, right? About the safety and the sheer complexity of this global network that we all rely on every day. Second, the era of autonomous warfare, it's here. It has begun. A drone that can hunt and kill on its own is no longer a theory on a whiteboard. And that is going to fundamentally change the entire equation of global power and security. And finally, this futuristic stuff is becoming personal. The question is no longer if we're going to see pilotless air taxis in our cities, but how soon you, yes you, might be willing to step inside one for your daily commute. From maintenance and security to warfare and transportation, the rules of aviation are being rewritten as we speak. This week was just a preview. The future of the sky isn't some distant concept anymore. It's being built, it's being tested, and it's being deployed right now.